you know that the game of horseshoes is based on an actual profession? Yes, people actually put shoes like that on horses' feet. In our area, there are a lot of people who ride horses and go to rodeos. So if you know how to shoe a horse, or know enough to help a buddy out, you could really be a lifesaver in a certain situation. My father has been shoeing horses since before I was born. So as soon as I started to crawl, I went with my dad so that I could learn as much as possible so that one day I could hopefully take over the family business. Today I'll help you understand the origin of when shoeing horses began, what types of tools farriers will use, and the different types of methods they use to shoe horses. Shoeing horses are, first and foremost, we need to take it back and look at the origin of shoeing horses' feet. According to Animals Pawn Nation website, or animals.pawnnation.com, it is said that historians are not quite sure when shoeing horses began. Arabian horsemen first began putting booties on the horse's feet made out of hide or plant material. Horsemen in Europe began nailing shoes to their horses' feet by the 6th and 7th century. By 1000 AD, horseshoeing was a regular practice, and at this time, shoes were made from bronze. During the Crusades in 12th century England, shoes were cast from iron, and to be honest, they were more valuable than the same coins that were made out of iron at that time. In the 13th and 14th century, horseshoes were beginning to be made in bulk, and when you bought them, they were already pre-made and ready to use. And in the courses in the late 1800s in England, courses began to pop up to where farriers could go and learn the proper techniques so that they could learn how to do it correctly. The shoes we use today, like aluminum shoes for racing, rubber pads, and toe clips, began to appear in the early 1900s. In this day and time, the shoes we use are most commonly made from steel. Now that we know the backstory of past farriers, let's look at the tools that present farriers use. In my personal experience as a farrier's son, I've learned that there's many different tools that a farrier can use. First, you want to use a rasp to take off the old shoe, a rasp much like this one. This file on this back side takes off the old nails that are still holding the shoe on. And then you use the pull-off, much like the one that I'm about to pull out, and it hooks underneath the shoe, and you pry the shoe off of the bottom of the horse's foot. And once you get the old shoe off, you then use these nippers, which take off the excess, much like you would take off the excess fingernail, you take off the excess of the hoof around so that the hoof is level and that the horses aren't walking crooked and causing stress up through their joints and bones. And so once you do that, the horseshoer then gets a shoe, much like this one, and places on the foot to make sure that it fits the foot. If it doesn't, he takes a shaping hammer and an anvil, and I wasn't strong enough to bring an anvil, and he shapes the shoe to the horse's foot so that it fits perfectly and that it doesn't cause any inconvenience to the horse. And then once again, you use a rasp, you set the hoof on a hoof stand, use a rasp to take off the hoof wall that's left around the shoe, and then you use this, which sits on the bottom of the shoe, and this nail here, the excess nail, it takes it and it bends the nail over so that it hooks onto the outside of the hoof wall. And when it does that, the shoe won't come off the bottom of the foot. And so as you can tell, there are many different types of tools that a farrier can use. While it is annoying that an owner must have his or her horse shod, which recommended time is once every 6 weeks, it has its benefits, perks, and necessities. Like in my interview with Mike Haney, my father, and a farrier, I learned that those horses have to be shod because otherwise their feet start to mess up. And there are many different methods to shoe or fix a horse's feet. If one's just wanting to go trail riding on a normal, back out in your woods or whatever, then a farrier will come and do what I just explained and take those things off, and it will level the foot, put a shoe on, and clench it and everything, make sure everything's good, and he'll be done. But if a rider is wanting to take his horse out on cross country or across gravel or asphalt, then the farrier will need to come with a shoe that has Drill Tech on the bottom of it. That's a different type of metal that makes sure that the horse has traction. Because if you use a normal shoe, then the horse will just slip all over the concrete, which isn't very good at all. And now if an owner isn't riding their horse, they just have them, and at the time they're not able to ride or they don't want to ride, then the the farrier will just level the foot, and he won't even put a shoe on because there's no need, because the horse isn't doing anything too strenuous. He'll make sure that the foot is level and isn't causing any pressure through the bones and up to the joints. And he'll check and make sure that there aren't any chips or cracks in the hoof wall. And so you can tell there are many different methods and styles to shoe a horse for different reasons. Today I've hopefully helped you understand what happens to horses' feet, or helped you understand when shoeing horses began, what types of tools a farrier will use, and different types of methods they use to shoe a horse. So next time you see a beautiful horse standing out in the field, hopefully you'll realize that it isn't the color of the skin or the type of horse, but it's the condition of the feet that really matter. Thank you.